None more black. Welcome to Any Way You Slice It. I am Jason Flom. You know what? She told him to come, but he was already there. It's Peter Keishan. If you haven't guessed by now, we're doing Back in Black. We've been on an AC/DC kick, haven't we?
Indeed.
Everything has led up to this. Some would call it their pinnacle. This has sold 50 million albums worldwide.
It's insane.
Very insane. The second most of all time. Behind Thriller, of course. And I believe in the United States, it's third of all time. Behind Thriller and the Eagles' Greatest Hits. That doesn't count. It's a Greatest Hits.
Greatest Hits, yeah.
Kind of fitting, Peter, that tonight is, by the way, you're not here with us in Washington. Very stormy night. The lights have been flickering.
You mean it's going to be black soon?
Yes, and that happened to them in the Bahamas. Look at the lyrics.
Tropical
to Hell's
storms.
Bells. Look at the lyrics to Hell's Bells. It talks all about it. But so stormy night. This is appropriate. Back in Black. Mm-hmm. So first of all, not that anybody doesn't know this, but it has to be mentioned. Bon died 2 months before they started recording this, in February 1980. Death by misadventure. In layman's terms, the dude partied too much, drank too much one night, and
didn't work out that good.
No.
Yeah.
So
I think as far as AC/DC, his music career, he went out on the top, so he's always going to be that legend. You know what I mean? He's always going to, it's totally intact. Not that you should die young, but that's what happened with him. And
absolutely.
It is pretty amazing. I think Highway to Hell album, he's on the top of his game,
Oh, that and Power Rage. Power Rage.
So it is kind of amazing when people did start to hear this, that they took to it right away. Because Bon was like firing on all cylinders. I mean, that album, Highway to Hell, the best, but what is the best? Whatever, but the best as far as something that's going to sound really good on the radio, that's going to sound really great pumped up in the car. The best music, not just for diehard AC/DC fans, but the general public. It was just their biggest album at that point, obviously. And the fact that this album was accepted after that. The whole takeover in the vocal department is kind of absolutely amazing that it happened.
Brian obviously nailed it, because if he didn't, there would be backlash. Like, who's this clown?
Yeah, totally.
I guess there was a bit of, I don't know if you could call it backlash, some bickering behind the scenes that they got a new singer so quick and did all this so quick. But they had to move on. And I read that Bon's father actually told Angus at Bon's funeral, like, you got to continue on. You have to. And that was probably the instigator in Angus's mind. And
I thought it was Bon's mom.
One of his parents, yeah.
And Bon liked Brian. Bon knew about him. Like, they had played together. There had been some gigging together, and he liked him. So, like, I think those guys also felt like there was kind of inadvertently approval from Bon, sort of.
Yeah, Angus or somebody said, like, Bon hardly ever talks about any other musicians, but he mentioned Brian to us.
Brian just has this raw gut. He's just sitting there in pants, like jeans and a little cab driver hat, and you know what I mean? Just whatever shirt he had on in the morning.
What are those hats called? Whatever
shirt he fell asleep in, probably. Like, he just has on this football shirt, and he's just out there, and it's because it's just real, and it's just, he doesn't have the same type of voice as Bon, and it would have been bad if he did, because then he would have really been.
Oh, that wouldn't have been good.
But he could do that high, cool screech, but he just had a passion. Like, you can feel that passion coming through, that grit and that passion. And it's just something a little bit different than Bon, and it's always been really powerful for me. It's great. Yeah,
so Brian had spent the 70s, literally the whole 70s, in Geordie.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that had actually broken up or was about to.
I think it had simmered down.
I
think it had simmered down at that point.
Okay, so he was ready to move on.
He was starting to work a normal job.
Yeah.
or training or something.
He was down in the dumps, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he didn't even want to go audition for this band. He was disillusioned with everything.
Well, somebody called him and wouldn't quite tell him who it was for a while. Did you see that interview with somebody? Somebody called him. Somebody from the AC/DC team, I think, called him and said, "You got to come," but they wouldn't give up who it was at first. And he was like, "I'm not coming." So it was some story like
that. But they had an Australian accent. The story I heard is that they were doing this in England, and Brian had an offer to go to England to sing a commercial for Hoover vacuums, which he did, and you can hear it on YouTube. Hoover!
Yeah.
No, his voice wasn't, that's his AC/DC voice. Mm-hmm. Listen to Jordy, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah.
He saved the real raspy stuff for AC/DC. Anyway, so
it's true.
Since he's in London, why not stop by the AC/DC rehearsal and try out? Man, are we glad he did. Because
he killed two birds with one stone with that?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I heard that phone call. They were just kind of like, they wouldn't quite tell him who it was for, but you got to come. And it's like,
yeah.
So, I don't know. But I just want to say, you don't really hear people talk about the qualities that Brian has. Everyone says, he just has this yell, this screech, which is kind of true. But to me, he just has a passion that I feel right away,
Cab driver hat.
Well, I think it deserves to be said that he just had a gritty passion. And he really, on the records, he does have pretty good pitch. Vaughn had pretty good pitch control when he went up for the higher stuff. Vaughn had this weird little, a small voice, but he did great things with it, used it. He got the most out of it, I guess.
He had snarl and attitude.
Brian, just completely likable. I had never met him, but seems completely likable as a person. I just think the whole thing is great. I've never seen another takeover like this.
No.
It could have maybe been like this with Van Halen, but Eddie was writing all this major pop stuff. You know what I mean? I think Eddie changed Van Halen way more than Hagar did. Hagar was rocking.
Are you referring to Sammy Belcher Hagar?
Hagar. See, I'm a Hagar fan of the old stuff, Montrose and the early records of Hagar, and he was rocking. I Can't Drive 55. That's rocking. It's a commercial song, but it's rocking. He's yelling. He's cool.
Heavy Metal's a cool song.
Heck yeah.
What was the Standing Hampton?
That whole album.
Yeah,
I love that whole album. 3 O'Clock Box.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He had some great stuff. The live version of Red. I think we heard the live version of Red on KSW every single day. Do you remember those days?
They loved Sammy Hagar.
And Sammy Hagar came into the group, and they were all down to go into an extremely commercial direction, I think. But I think if Eddie Van Halen would have been coming up with these heavy minor riffs, I think Hagar would have been down. I feel like Eddie changed it a lot more than Hagar did.
Whoa, we took a left turn there.
But it could have been a great switch like this was. But with AC/DC, they just didn't deviate. They just kept doing exactly what they knew they did good. And the songs are different. Maybe the riffs are heavier. And there's, like on Highway to Hell, there's really even less blues form on here. As if there's really any on Highway to Hell. I don't really think there is, but there's even less blues feel on here. There's pentatonic in the guitar, of course. It's bluesy, but...
That's just the way Angus plays.
Yeah. But it's just a continuation where they were naturally going. They're very unpretentious. I think everybody likes that about AC/DC.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I think Brian...
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I think Brian was very unpretentious and real and soulful and gritty. People talk about his screech. To me, it's like a soul music screech almost, though. It's almost like Otis Redding or it's like a soul thing to me, kind of.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So yeah, I've always loved it.
Yeah. We love Brian. I might prefer the Bond stuff, but
C4.
Is this episode brought to you by C4?
If you haven't tried, Jason and I drink C4s when we're feeling down in the Jolly Rancher strawberry watermelon.
The cheapest stuff is all I need.
Check it out.
Elysian. I think this is a local beer brewery. I think Elysian. Anyway, back to regular schedule.
Back
program.
to Van Halen.
Yeah, apparently.
So they went to that studio, and Tony Platt he did tons of interviews about the engineering of the album, the recording of it, all of it. He don't mind giving up all the facts. He talks about the actual microphones they used. He talks about all of the details of everything. So it's really cool because he did, I think he did Highway to Hell, this album, and 404. Did he do that Boomtown Rats album?
Yes. No, that was MUTT.
He
probably did it with
MUTT with someone else. So I think 404 was the last album that he engineered with MUTT for a band. And Highway, Back in Black, and 404, got to admit, they sound amazing. And they recorded at a time where you had good technology, but not too much technology. Drums still sounded like drums. You couldn't just copy and paste shit. So what I got out of the stuff that I watched...
Lights are flickering.
What I watched with Tony is that the first thing that really surprised me, and I had to look it up deep because I'm like, no way. He's confusing Flick of the Switch with Back in Black, because he actually said in the interview that they used a Steinberger bass on this album. When you think about this album, you're thinking about Geddy on Grace Under Pressure tour, that Steinberger. And
it's talking about that?
Yeah. Supposedly this album was played with the Steinberger.
Like Paul on the Crazy Nights tour, that thing?
Yep. For bass, but it's got a really even temperament, a really hard fretboard. So it's like, you don't have like a really bright A string, and then after your strings have been played for 2 hours, a really dull E string. It's like it's more even. So it records really well. And I had to look it up, look in some groups and see like, is this for real? Because it's interesting. This was the next album was Mutt's last album with them. But Tony Platt didn't engineer that album. And that album sounds amazing. But then they were done with MUTT, but they brought Tony Platt back to engineer Flick. And they produced it. So kind of interesting.
Okay.
Then another interesting thing actually is that I didn't realize Simon was on drums at that point. And then
Flick.
On Flick. And later he joined Dio. He's on Lock Up the Wolves. Tony Platt engineered that with Simon on drums.
He keeps following all the AC/DC guys
kind of cool.
to their projects.
It's kind of cool, huh? It's kind of things moving around. Kind of cool.
Yep.
But as far as the recording, they didn't use a ton of compression. They used the tape as compression. You can push the signal to the tape louder. For those guys who record, but for the people who don't record, you can send a stronger signal to the tape and it absorbs it a bit. It's a natural tape compression. They use that a lot on here, especially for the guitars, I guess. And a tricky thing they did with the snare, because 80s was coming and highly produced snares were just, becoming more in vogue, and like really thick snares, gated snares. And what they did on this was they recorded it and then played the snare signal out through a harmonizer. They played it through a harmonizer and then back in on another track, so they can mix this other version of the snare drum in. And what they did was they lowered it in pitch. Like I think maybe they lowered it an octave and then just kind of mix that in enough to get that thick snare.
Many people have called this the best sounding rock album of all time.
I mean, there's some pretty good sounding albums after this. There was some pretty.
It was the blueprint, though.
But for this era, I mean, oh my God, yeah, it was really good.
It stood out.
And the thing is, it still stands the test of time because it's so natural. It's so natural. You can just, you feel like you're playing the instruments. You can just really, it's very human, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And what else about the recording? Did you read much about the recording? Did you research at all on that stuff?
Well, I didn't. I read a bit, but I watched some documentaries, and so because of that, I have a lot of info about certain songs.
Mm-hmm.
But the recording, I know crabs walked across the
yeah,
studio floor.
Totally. Another thing that I learned this week that I didn't know actually, and that was that they really got into it and they tuned the toms differently for different songs to kind of like coincide with the pitch of the song and stuff. I didn't realize that. You can bet they didn't do that on Power Rage. You can bet they just blasted right through, played rocked out. So that's interesting that they did that. What else? It's a lot of the 87s they used for mics, I think, on guitar, overheads. It's a D20, not the common D12 for the kick drum. Sounds like there was a hole in the front kick drum. Maybe no kick drum head. There was a hole at least. Yeah, but the Steinberger bass, that kind of blows me away, just because really, visually.
Yeah.
It seems
Can
like...
you imagine if you played that on stage?
I can't
remember stuff thrown at him.
I can't remember when they designed those, but I guess I didn't think they were quite out yet. But I guess they were,
You have to have a mullet and play that in 1984 in the Great Celebration Tour.
Yeah.
Or be Paul in his body glove.
Yeah, have your hair in a ponytail like this and be rocking. So yeah, it was fascinating. I had watched some of those videos before, but I too watched a couple of the behind the scene, the making of the album.
This album is very well documented. Mm-hmm. There's documentaries. One, I haven't even watched it all yet. It's almost 2 hours long just about this. Mm-hmm. There's, all kinds of great videos. That's what happens when your album sells 50 million records.
And when Tony Platt is such a cool guy and likes to talk about it too, because he's given people a lot of information.
He's probably in the documentaries.
Yeah. Tony Platt was the engineer on here, and he recorded that bell on Hell's Bells.
Oh, the bell, yeah.
So this would lead us into the first song.
Okay,
they
track
had
by track time. So yeah, Hell's Bells leads it off. Well, first of all, did you ever really think about how there's the highway to hell? So at the end of the album, you're probably in hell, right? Well, as the bells chime in your entrance.
Yeah, I think.
Come on in.
Yeah.
The bell. They had a bell especially made. Mm-hmm. The sound you hear, though, it's tuned down an octave. So when you see them play it live and there's somebody ringing the bell
would have been too big.
Yeah.
So they had it made twice as small, and they pitched it down. But I think that's the bell on that tour, right?
Yeah,
Brian came out and...
Yeah, but it's going to be an octave higher because it's not tuned down. But yeah.
Still cool, though.
And to this day, that bell resides in the estate of Malcolm Young. Mm-hmm. It was in his house for years.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But Hell's Bells, it's a tribute to Bon. But Rolling Thunder, there were all these tropical storms down there. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, the power would go out while they're recording. And so, that made its way into the lyrics. But God, what a great song. Yeah. I mean, just first of all, the chime of the bell, the mournful guitar coming in.
It's so dark and brooding and just hypnotizing. I mean, I think it's so amazing that they started with that song when they could have absolutely started with the title track.
Oh, you want to hear a funny story?
You know what I mean? They could have absolutely... And if you look at the back of the record, it says Back in Black on top.
I was about to say this. For years, I thought
so too.
Side 1 was side 2.
I thought so too.
And vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And when I realized it, after I'd been into the album for, a handful of years, and I realized that, like, what? That's side 1?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Exactly.
I kind of thought, why would they do that? Why would they start with Hell's Bells? Because I'd always just thought it was Back in Black, and it kind of comes in snapping.
I think
in.
it's what I said, the whole highway to hell, and now we're in hell. Yeah.
But just for them to choose/allow that slow, brooding song to be the opener of the new album, I just think it's amazing that they did it. Totally cool.
Because Back in Black would have been a great opener.
Absolutely, I thought it was. I thought it was.
Maybe this was the original track listing. Maybe could be. Kiss used to do this. They'd put the song titles on the back.
That had nothing to do with anything at all. Yeah. I don't know, but it's just amazing that Hell's Bell starts the album, and it starts it so good the way it sucks you in.
Yeah, can't say enough good things about that. So this is what we'll have to look at for the track listing. So Shoot to Thrill would be next. What do you think of that little ditty?
Oh, one of my very favorites. I think I have a little Amazon playlist. I use Amazon Music, and on my Amazon AC/DC playlist that I use at the club also, so it needs to have a certain pace to it. I started with Shoot to Thrill.
Really?
Yeah. And they
Okay.
use Shoot to Thrill in the Iron Man movies. They love it in the Iron Man movies.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think. Didn't they do an Iron Man soundtrack? I think.
Oh,
they did.
there's two.
Oh, there is there.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 volumes of it. Yep. Yeah.
One of their last great songs, "War Machine," is on one of those. That's a good song.
The first, the Iron Man movie, pretty good actually. I got it for my 6-year-old a few weeks ago, and we watched it.
Robert
And
Downey Jr., right?
Yeah, I'd never seen the whole thing, and we enjoyed it. It's good,
Yeah,
and you get to hear AC/DC.
I don't really go for the newer superhero movies,
But this one is kind of special. It is.
It's
Yeah,
good.
it's good. It's good.
I like. We're getting off topic here, but
We are.
the 1978
This
Superman.
episode's about Iron Man, isn't it?
1978 Superman. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the cartoons.
No, the movie with who's the guy, the actor, played Clark Kent. Christopher Reeve, the guy who ended up being paralyzed or something.
So you mean? Did you say Superman or Spider-Man?
Superman.
Oh yeah, those are great. Yeah.
Yeah, Superman.
So Shoot to Thrill, absolutely killer. Absolutely killer.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's one of the.
I like when it breaks down.
Yeah.
When it breaks down towards the
He's
end,
kinda
and that's meant for the
plucking.
stage. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
meant for the stage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's just a classic. Again, back to the track listing here. What do you do for money, honey? Which is funny because the way they sing it is, honey, what do you do for money? But yeah, I mean, incredible. I mean, first of all, there's not a bad track in this album. Let's just
Yeah.
get that out in the open right now.
And everybody, we got to acknowledge it. Everybody talks about it. They compare the two singers, of course, even though I don't like to directly compare them. You're going to because he's a replacement singer and everything. But Brian's lyrics, just straight up raunchy.
They can be.
Love it. I mean, why not? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Who cares? It doesn't have to be coy, and it's just straight up raunchy at times. Just what it is.
You want to listen to a bit of it? Oh, that's the one. Do you want some raunch and roll in your life?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Totally killer.
Yeah, so if you notice pauses in here, we listen to the song and then we come right at you after we heard it with what we think. And yeah, good sing-along song, meant for the stage again, or even the radio, although I don't think it was a single, was it? But
His vocals on the chorus, though, just up high, really good pitch, actually, just ripping it up, just passion in those vocals.
yeah, there are certain songs like they wouldn't even be able to attempt to do live now. He wouldn't be able to reach those.
You gotta feel sorry for bands that like recorded these classic albums in their 20s, and it's like, oh shit,
Yeah,
when they're in their 50s or whatever, and like they can't quite do them.
there's a song coming up. We'll talk more about a song they can't do anymore.
Yeah, I mean, his voice, even by mid 80s, his voice was changing quite a bit, and he could pull it off on records for a few more years and sound like the Brian we loved. But even on the Flick rehearsals, you can see some of those Flick rehearsals online. He's having a hard time with those high notes, for
Yeah.
sure. He's having a hard time.
You could listen to this in 1980, and even as a small kid, you would know, yeah, that guy's not gonna be able to do that his whole life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're happy for the time that he is.
It did. Yeah, it was great for a while. I mean, you look at Paul Stanley.
Oh,
Paul Stanley voice went pretty far. I mean, he went into like the late 90s before you started to really hear a difference.
he took it places in the 80s, though. He tested the boundaries. He went beyond the boundaries.
Yeah. But it's amazing him screaming at people in the stadiums just relentlessly forever, And his voice lasted quite a long time.
Yeah,
But,
he had a good ride.
Yeah. What time did Geordie start? Was that like
Early
71?
70s. Early 70s, yeah.
So it was kind of glammy, sexy, glammy stuff.
Yeah.
So he'd been singing, probably pushing it pretty hard already at this point for probably in bands for probably almost 10 years.
I don't know enough about them, but did he write pornographic lyrics for them too?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Are there any songs about dogs?
And speaking of that, my favorite song from the album. I'm into my favorites, and this is it. Giving the Dog a Bone. What's the song about, Peter?
I can't figure it out.
It's like, when your dog goes potty outside, you want to
I feel like
give
going
him
to PetSmart,
a treat?
though. I don't know.
Okay. The smart people know what the song's about, and I just love the relentless groove. That riff, that's Malcolm. That's Malcolm right there.
Yeah.
That's my man. And yeah, just incredible. I
Yeah.
love this song.
Every
And,
songs, the tempos are all worked out so good.
Yeah, it wasn't overplayed either. So
They got their tempos worked out really good. So the pockets are just perfect in every song. It's just really perfect production, where the snare does exactly what they needed to do. It's got a nice thick pocket. And for me, just song after song, like the last album, it's just perfect suite of songs that just unfolds. You wouldn't really want to change anything. It's funny you brought up that Hell's Bells thing. For years, I thought, God, Back in Black should have been number one,
Mm-hmm.
But it's so cool in retrospect that Hell's Bells is first.
yeah.
So given the dog a bone, though, I mean, those lyrics, well, I don't know. What a bad boy. I mean, those are some raunchy-ass lyrics.
Brian.
Brian, But...
Hey, that was the life back
then,
then,
we chalk
right?
it up to it's rock and roll, I suppose, is what we...
Yeah, that was the life back then.
Little Richard, his lyrics weren't clean either, I guess.
No. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tipper Gore. Speaking of Tipper Gore, this next song has something to do with her. But rock and roll's been raunchy since the beginning. So...
He wanted to put his love in Tipper Gore?
So, the Filthy 15?
Uh-huh.
This song was, I believe, one of the 15.
Let Me Put My Love?
Into You.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I don't get it, though. It's Casanova Brian. He's wanting to put his love deep in her heart, right?
Yeah, deep in her heart, yeah.
Okay. He's not talking about, like, deep penetration,
It is a little
right?
bit of a downshift. It is a little darker and downshift. It is kind of passionate. It almost is sort of a love song-ish, sort of.
In an aggressive way.
With a little, yeah, in a physically aggressive manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if there was a ballad on the album, which there's not really, that would be it-ish, sort of.
Yeah, definitely.
Still cool, a little bit
it's-
slower, but still a driving pocket. And
I love the opening guitar riff.
Yeah.
Malcolm is the rhythm player, but that opening, that's Angus. That's an Angus kind of riff right there. But yeah, it's good. Okay, for the sake of, we're doing in Back in Black track by track right now, I will say, if I had to pick a least favorite, that's it. But it's still good. It's still
Let Me
great.
Put My Love?
Yeah, still great. Okay. So that we flip it over now.
We flip it over. Side one is who's on first, who's on second. Side one is B, B is A.
Yeah, exactly.
So you finally get to Back in Black. I wanted to mention also that for the most part, from everything I've read, this album is pretty much recorded live, playing together. Solos overdubbed. And then I read one of Tony's interviews. He said that Angus would, after the solo, he wouldn't really want to drop out and leave a space again. Once it's built up with the energy of the solo, he would try to find stuff to do from that point on to the end of the song. Like keep it up on this level. So sometimes you'll hear the solo dubbed in and then maybe a guitar that kind of hangs around and does some stuff to the end. But for the most part, it's live,
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
yeah.
With the Steinberger.
What I like best about Back in Black are the little bluesy fills that Angus ties the chords together with. Yeah, just incredible. Yeah. Former side one, now realistically it's side two. Yeah, great. If you had to pick one song like they're known for, would you probably say it's that? I'd probably
Back in Black?
Yeah. I probably would.
Probably.
Although I think the next one was a bigger hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible and it's iconic for a reason. And guess what? Unlike certain songs, maybe the next one, I've never got sick of Back in Black.
Oh,
I can hear that.
Me neither.
I can hear that all day.
Absolutely. You Shook Me. I get it. It's the album's Heaven's on Fire. It's the lick it up of the album. It's got you got that major sing along, and it is really good. It's a really fun song. Still in the car, it is. Sometimes I'll leave it on. Sometimes I know I like it, but I don't want to hear it too much because it is a major sing along anthem.
For AC/DC, this is so commercial.
For them, it's pretty poppy,
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm glad that it's kind of on side two.
Yeah.
When we listen to it today on CD, I'm glad that I like it, but I'm glad I don't have to hear it for a while.
Do you remember the rebirth this had when Who Made Who came out? They made a video for it, like a new video for it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I remember the most is the second time it was released.
Yeah, that was the era where everybody's trying to get some MTV videos together just to get their Black Sabbath. Well, let's dig out those old, TV shows. Remember the Iron Man and those? Everybody was putting together. They were grabbing their old promo videos, and those were their MTV videos.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yeah. But this was them making a brand new video in 1986
Yeah.
for "You Shook Me All Night Long."
Yeah.
And it was all over MTV.
Yeah.
It helped promote the tour Who Made Who, which I seen them on. But I mean, it's a good song. I mean, guarantee you, back in the day, I loved it.
Yeah.
I've just heard it 7,000 billion times now. So, like certain songs, like I never ever have to hear "Somebody to Love" by Queen or "Bohemian Rhapsody" ever again. And
I'm kind of that way with. I'll take "Somebody to Love," but maybe
Okay.
"Bohemian" I could wait. 10
"You
years
Shook
on
Me All Night Long" is that close to being in that category.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been played.
Yes. But then again, like I said, Back in Black I've heard the same amount of times, and I absolutely love that. So, anyway, what's up next, Peter?
I just love that they have this song "You Shook Me All Night Long" on the album, but they put it way down here, and they open with "Hell's Bells." I can't get over that. It's just so cool.
It's very cool.
That they have the guts to do that.
Yeah.
And they think that the listener's going to have the patience, to get into that. I mean, you don't even hear hardly anything happening for like a minute and a half or something. Like, it's just a beautiful slow build in. I just love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, back to Van Halen. Oh wait, what? Back to Spider-Man. What?
We're going to listen to this next song, and we're going to get right back to you.
Yeah, we're gonna have a drink real quick. Yeah, the forget about the trip, we'll get hell to pay. I've always loved that line, even as a kid. I thought, these are dark lyrics. This is cool. You know what I mean? I loved it. Always loved it.
Great lyrics. Brian's ode to the elixir I love so much. The magic potion known as alcohol. Yeah, just fucking great song.
Yeah.
Great. That's next song. No, we love it. We love that song. Again, it's a huge chorus. They did this live. Great song. Not much more to say about it. Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna. There's no filler in this album.
Yeah.
The all killer, no filler, right here. Same with the albums before it too. They were on a roll.
Yeah.
Right here, absolutely. But Peter, the next song we can definitely go on about because it's "Shake a Leg."
I like his lyrics. I heard that they don't let him write lyrics anymore.
Really?
I heard that somewhere when Malcolm was still around, they basically they had someone send him a message saying they were going to be writing the lyrics from now on, something like that. And I like Brian's lyrics. I think they're cool.
I mean, back then they were great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about that whole blow up your video era or anything, but man, he was top form. Mm-hmm. "Shake a Leg" is amazing. I know a lot of AC/DC fans have complained that it hasn't been played live enough.
Oh.
And this is a song, like I was talking
It's
earlier.
the good up-tempo song on the album.
They wouldn't be able to pull this off live now. He sings too high of a register.
Let's hear that for a second, can we?
Let's do that.
Can we DJ?
Okay, first of all, one of my favorite Angus riffs ever when that song gets going.
That verse is a really, really cool riff.
Man.
And I kind of take back what I said. I mean, they're always going to have one foot in the blues, really, because that they do stay on the one chord, and then it sounds like they do go to the fourth, like a blues would. But then they have their own thing they go to instead of the turnaround. But so they do. They're always going to have one foot in the blues because they come from the blues,
Oh, without a doubt.
And Angus can really play blues,
Yeah. Whoa, light's really flickering now. Yeah, for those scoring at home, my second favorite song on the album.
Yeah.
Just we love it.
Yeah.
Way down there, buried, track 9.
Yeah, it definitely could have been moved up. It's killer song.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that's how good this album is.
Yeah.
Throw it at track 9. People will love it.
They didn't feel the need to necessarily do a halftime ballad or it has a nice, strong
presence.
It's just one strong mid-tempo song after another, and I love that about it. I love the consistency. You put it on in the car, you are rocking.
Like he said earlier, "Let Me Put My Love Into You" is probably the ballad on the album, if you could call it that.
But it's still a great pocket.
Slower tempo.
Yeah.
Rock, Roll, Noise Pollution is also kind of slower, actually. And this song's interesting because Malcolm wrote this. The album, they were done with 9 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And Malcolm wrote this when the other guys were out getting dinner. I don't know why Malcolm didn't join them, but so they came back. He's like, "Hey, listen to this," and they recorded it like last minute. So that's cool, and it became a single. It's like I don't want to use the word anthem, but it's like, this is what we believe in, which is an anthem. So I'm using the word.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the rally cry for all us fans.
So the album ends on a really cool tone.
It does.
Yeah.
And then, so Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. And for those about to rock, we salute you. So it all ties in. You notice that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can't say enough good things about it. Now, many of you, I'm sure, have seen our AC/DC album ranking. And I think we both placed this around 4 or 5, right?
It was 2 or 3 for me.
Really? Okay.
I think
it's 4 or 5 for me.
I can't remember.
Bottom line is this. 4 or 5 doesn't matter. It's easily one of their best albums.
Yeah.
Probably their best sounding, in my opinion. Powerful.
I mean, ranking videos are fun, but they're kind of dumb as fuck, right? I mean, this is number 1 if you're listening to it because it's fucking powerful. Highway to Hell, same thing. For me, for those about to rock, same thing. Flick, to me, really close to those, but it's a little different. The songs are great.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that.
But these 3 in a row, and I'm excited to talk about for those about to rock because out of these 3 with MUTT, it gets talked about the least. But I think it's really just as good as this album, But it wasn't the first album with Brian. It wasn't the big shocker to come out really soon after Brian. And it's less celebrated for those facts because it came out. It was just another album that came out, I guess.
They didn't wait long either. It was like just after a year this came out.
Yeah.
So some would say they rushed into For Those About to Rock. But, they had momentum and they wanted to keep it going.
Yeah.
So is that our segue to what's next? I think so.
There it was.
And, we haven't, we've mentioned it before. I mean, we're going in order. We're going up to Flick. We love Flick as well. I like it more than For Those About to Rock.
Maybe even Fly on the Wall. It's got a lot of great stuff on it.
Why not?
It's got a lot of great stuff on it. Yeah.
Why not? Just to talk about those dumb videos they made for it. Fly on the Wall coming up, but not next, because next is For Those About to Rock. Yeah. And we're actually doing a special episode next. That it doesn't even have to do with AC/DC. A little special episode for you people.
It actually might be up before this.
Really?
We'll see. We'll see how long it is. We'll see which one's easier to edit. So.
Okay, so we're doing another episode tonight. Watch that as well. Watch all our videos. Subscribe, like, comment. Tell us what you think of Back in Black. What's your favorite song? Shake a Leg, maybe?
Have you hated it since the day it came out, like my friend on Facebook? Stork.
I hope he watches this.
Yeah, I hope he dies. I mean, what? I didn't say that.
Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Jason, Peter.